How do you stop the spin cycle of reactivity in your relationship? Do you have more conflict in your relationship than you would like? Is it hard to get over hurt? Do resentments build up? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Welcome to Rohini's Relationship Tips. Today I'm going to be answering a question about how to not start a fight and how to get over being hurt. If you have a question that you would like me to answer, please send it in. I put my email in the description below. And if you'd like to spend some time live, please check out the Rewilders membership community. If you'd just like a weekly inspiration, sign up for the newsletter. And of course, if you're not a subscriber to the channel, please hit subscribe. Here's today's question. 6 months into dating, my partner said he was not ready to get married. I was not looking to get engaged then, but I knew I wanted to marry him. It then turned into me taking it personally and feeling like I was being told I was not good enough. How do I forgive him for just being honest? He wasn't ready, he is now. Sometimes I can connect with the love inside of me and for him, but I just can't seem to let it go. I still get triggered, and I'm not always able to not start a fight. I'm tired of this spin cycle. Well, thank you so much for your question, for your honesty. And I think what's so helpful is being able to get a question like this out and reflect on what you're already seeing. There's so much wisdom that's coming forward in the question itself. I'm going to start by highlighting some of those things. So you recognize that what's hurting is that you're taking your partner's behavior personally. That means that you see that the hurt is inside of you, and you recognize that he was being honest and that he wasn't malicious, he wasn't meaning to do something wrong. That's key because that means that you can recognize the direction to look in is the direction within yourself to where you're feeling hurt. From that place of hurt, what I hear is that sometimes it's hard for you to not act from that hurt. And from that hurt, you can become conflictual in the relationship. I also recognize that you're ready to be done with this. You say you're tired of this spin cycle, ready to stop hurting. That readiness to be in a better place within yourself is so key because it means that you're motivated to change. Sometimes it is the pain that motivates us to change, but that's helpful, that's useful. We can use the health in that to support you. So as I'm reading your question and reflecting on it, one of the things that stands out to me is that you're looking at how do I forgive him? And I would say to put that on the back burner for now, to not be putting pressure on yourself to feel a certain way toward your partner, to just come back to what's present for you in this moment. And as you said, you're not always feeling resentful, you're not always feeling upset. There's times where you're able to feel the love in your heart. There's times, I'm sure, where you're able to enjoy the relationship. So the place to really begin is in the here and now, and to recognize that you are okay exactly as you are. Even if you have resentment that comes up at times, even if you have hurt that comes up at times. Why this is so important is because the more pressure we put on ourselves to be different, the more pressure we put on ourselves to be more enlightened, more loving, more kind, whatever expectations we might have, the harder it is for our nervous system to remain stable. And when our nervous system is dysregulated and not settled, the more likely we are to be reactive. And that's what I really hear you wanting to change, is to have less reactivity in your relationship. The place to start with that is with yourself, as always. And what I mean by that is starting with letting yourself settling down, letting your nervous system relaxed. Now, how do we do that? What really lets our nervous system settle and relax? Well, we want to understand the relationship between what we focus on and what we feel. We feel the thoughts that we identify with. And so if we're wanting to allow our nervous system to settle and give ourselves the opportunity to live more in a space of peace and well-being within ourselves, we're on the learning curve of not identifying with limiting thoughts, with thoughts that don't serve us, with thoughts that aren't true. Now, this isn't within our conscious control. It's really important to be kind to ourselves and not have expectations on ourselves that we can do things that are just not within our conscious control. So I'm not talking about asking you to manage your thinking or telling you to try and change your thoughts, because that's just going to get your intellect more active rather than more settled, which is the direction that I'm encouraging you to look in. What does support the mind with relaxing is understanding how that works. Understanding that the thoughts that we focus on become magnified in our consciousness and that we feel them physiologically. Our emotions are our thoughts brought to life within the body. And so when we understand that connection and how that works, we get more masterful and more accomplished at being able to leave the thinking alone that creates suffering so that we don't magnify that in our experience. There's no perfection in this, but we can improve and we do get better. And I'm speaking for myself in that. I used to spend a lot of time focusing on negative, painful thoughts. And I lived in the feeling of that. And it felt chronic. And I would have times where I would feel incredibly low and depressed and hopeless. And there were times where all of that would just disappear and I would be fine. But I didn't really understand how all of that worked. And so when I started to see the relationship between my thoughts and my feelings, I was able to relax more into my experience. And when I was able to recognize that my feelings didn't mean anything about me, then I had less compulsion to try and change my experience to be better or to be different. It was much easier for me to just simply be with whatever the experience was that I was having in the moment and know that what I'm engaging with in my mind is the source of it, but to be okay with it. And so my invitation for you is to start by being okay with the fact, or moving into acceptance if you can, with the fact that you have hurt, that you have resentment, and that sometimes that resentment builds up and that hurt builds up and you can't help yourself but discharge it on your partner. Understanding how that works is the beginning. Because as soon as you see that, there's more likelihood for you to come home within yourself and to take care of yourself, rather than expecting you to be further along than you are, or expecting you to show up differently with your partner. You can begin by meeting yourself with compassion and kindness where you're at. There's nothing wrong with you that you have resentment. You're not less than because you get reactive in your relationship. This is all part of the human learning curve. We're all learning and growing around these same kinds of things. You talk about feeling not good enough. That is something that is common. I would even maybe go so far as to say is universal, in that we're all up against that misunderstanding within ourselves. We can easily get caught up into the misunderstanding that we're not good enough and that we're not worthy. And when that happens, we feel pain and we suffer. And when we feel pain and we suffer, if we get more tied up in that and dive deeper into that, sometimes that pain builds and then we react. I've absolutely done that in my relationship. I'm sure I'm going to do it again in my life, probably many, many times as part of my learning curve. So to start with that self-compassion of meeting yourself where you're at and knowing that you're not less than because of your behavior, because of your experience. Everything that you're experiencing is normal, it's healthy, and it's all part of a learning curve of being human. So from that foundation of nothing being wrong with you, it's much easier to take that exhale And realize that you're human just like the rest of us. You're learning just like the rest of us. And it's okay to be learning. It's okay to not have it all figured out. I absolutely do not have it all figured out. I can only share with you the little that I see with the hope that it will be helpful. And so from that place of exhale, being where you're at, understanding that there's hurt there, understanding that there's misunderstandings about your worth and your value, being with that allows the innate wisdom, the innate intelligence within you, your true nature, to have more room to express itself. When you're less constricted and tight, when you're more open, that intelligence has more room to come forward. And that's where you're going to get your insights, your realizations, your fresh thinking. That's the kind of knowing that you want to open yourself to. Your intellect is not going to figure this out. There isn't an answer that's going to be satisfying to your intellect. And your intellect is always going to be wondering, well, how do I do this? How do I have less reactivity in my relationship? And instead, what you can do is open to what is, be with yourself, with whatever you're experiencing, and know that it's healthy. And in that openness and expansion, you will hear more of your own wisdom and your own knowing. And it will show you how to let go of the resentment. It will show you how to forgive. I can't tell you how to forgive your partner, but I know that you have love in your heart. I know that you have the wisdom of your true nature within you. And I know that when you're able to look in that direction and hear what is given to you from an open mind in that place, that you will be given something valuable. And so if there's any how that we're talking about here, it's the listening to the knowing that you have within you, and not listening to all of the noise that tells you that you're not good enough for whatever reason. I don't care what the evidence is that you have, it's wrong, because the truth is you are innately valuable. You are innately good enough. It's true for every single person, including you. And so to have that as just a given, that allows you to not need to look to how to improve yourself, how to fix yourself, and it allows you to be with yourself and be with whatever emotions are present. If there's hurt present, can you be with that? Can you allow the hurt to be there? Can you be with the sadness? Can you be with the anger? Can you be with the frustration? Can you be with whatever emotion shows up within you? Knowing that it's the health of your nervous system simply expressing. And that if you allow it to do that, your mind will naturally settle, because that is what the mind does. The mind is designed to settle. Your nervous system is designed to settle. That is how you are made. That is how we're all made. And so when you allow things to move through you, whether they be thoughts, whether they be feelings, you allow yourself to be open to it and then come back into a space of peace and balance and equilibrium within yourself. That is your design. You can trust that. And what gets hard is we get scared and we contract and we resist and we get confused and we think we need to do something. We think we need to fix ourselves. We think we need to make things happen. But that's just misunderstanding and confusion. If you can feel the truth in what I'm saying, that your natural state is one of love, and that you will always come back to your natural state, that you don't need to learn anything, be a better person, that is just an innate part of your design. If you can hear that, that will allow you to relax and allow the energy of life, the energy of your thoughts, the energy of your feelings to move through you. And in that openness, you hear more. And that's where healing comes from. Healing comes as a result of a deeper understanding revealing itself to you. The hurt is a reflection of the misunderstanding. The healing comes from seeing something deeper, that's more true, that's more honest. And the way that you hear that is by listening to that deeper part within yourself, recognizing that it's there, and recognizing that the only thing that gets in the way of that is listening to all of the other thoughts that aren't true, that are misunderstandings. It really is that simple. And it can be a conscious choice. You can consciously choose to look in the direction of the feeling of who you are, of that innate love that is your true nature. You can look in that direction and see what reveals itself to you. It doesn't mean that it's going to show up on demand, but it can be more common, more frequent. At least that's been my experience. And when you get caught up, as we all do as human beings, you can be kind and gentle with yourself when that happens. And again, know that you'll just come back to that place of balance within yourself, that place of peace within yourself. It will always happen because that is the design. And as you spend more time listening to that deeper part of yourself, living in the feeling of openness to all of your experience, you open to a deeper experience of the love that is your true nature. And in that, the relationships in your life change. But it starts with living in that feeling more deeply within yourself and experiencing the healing that's available to you based on the understanding that you have within yourself. Listening to that and knowing more about what's true about yourself. And as you listen, more will get revealed. And that will guide you in your relationship. I don't have your relationship answers. I've got some tips, but I don't have your answers. And so my tip is to listen more deeply to that place within yourself, to let your knowing guide you, to allow yourself to relax into the truth that you are good enough exactly as you are, and that you are safe to experience all of your emotions, and that you can be with yourself as you experience your emotions. And that openness within yourself will allow you to show up in your relationship more from that place of love. And it will allow you to see more clearly when you're starting to lose your balance, when you're starting to lose that inner equilibrium, so that you can take care of yourself first, so that you don't have to get to the point where you're discharging your hurt and upset on someone else, such as your partner in your relationship. The sooner you start to notice that you're losing your bearings, the sooner you can take care of yourself, and the less likely you are to go into old coping mechanisms such as discharging your emotions on someone else so that you can try and regain that equilibrium, or so that you can try and receive their validation. Never really works, right? When we discharge our emotions on someone else, it's very unlikely for them to be able to be supportive to us. Sometimes we have someone in our life that can do that, but it's hard for them. And so the more you take care of yourself in the way that I'm describing, the easier it will be for you to not go to that old coping mechanism of discharging, and the less you'll be in that spin cycle of reactivity in your relationship. And it's win-win, because you feel better immediately by taking care of yourself. And then the byproduct is that your relationship benefits from that. Start with yourself, deepen your listening, open your heart to yourself, and then feel the benefit of that in your relationship and really in all areas of your life. You can't go wrong with that. And if you have any follow-up questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer new questions and follow-up questions, and I look forward to hearing any comments or reflections you have in the, not the description below, in the space below, whatever format or media you're watching this in. I think there's going to be a space for you to leave a comment. So love to hear from you, and look forward to answering your ongoing questions. Sending you lots of love.